Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next Coveros conversation. I'm Mike Sowers. I'm our Executive Vice President here at Coveros, and I lead our consulting and training businesses. I've got the privilege today of talking with Jeff Payne, our CEO and product owner of our training line of business. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? Hey, everybody that's out there.
Hey, today we're continuing the conversation that we've been having over the past year around learning journeys. Learning journeys are those defined paths that really create a structured learning experience and foster a culture of continuous improvement within the organization. So today, Jeff, I'd really like to provide some perspective for those in leadership roles on the topic of ensuring that they've got the right skills in place across all their teams to deliver to their key business objectives. So that'll be our focus today. So let's start with some level setting. Let's talk about learning and development in the context of this crazy new environment that many of us are working in as leaders. What do you see as the key challenges for those of us in leadership positions regarding growing and retaining talent?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. And we certainly live in interesting times, that's for sure. And leaders have a really tough challenge, in my opinion, right now. From talking to, corporate executives all the way down to team leads, what I hear from them is, first and foremost, the world is moving so fast. Take COVID and the other issues out of the picture, and we'll talk about them in a bit. Things are just really accelerating. The pace of change and innovation is just greater than it's ever been. And it's because everyone's trying to keep ahead and keep up with their competitors on a global basis. And because of that, a lot of organizations are trying to accelerate their delivery. They're trying to figure out how do we get more value to customers faster, which are all good things. But unfortunately, what I'm hearing is that a lot of organizations and their teams are so fully focused on that project work, that stuff that has to be done to keep up with innovation and keep delivering value, that it really limits their ability to provide learning and training opportunities for the organization and for their teams and for their people. And of course, the challenge with that from a leadership perspective is twofold. Right? One is because things are changing so fast, we have to figure out a way for our people to learn, or they're not going to be able to keep up. Our teams aren't going to do well. They're not going to be as productive. And that means we're not going to add as much value as we could, and our team will start to atrophy over time. The second piece, of course, is that it's always a hot market in technology. And so if you're not helping your teams learn and grow, you're going to have trouble retaining them, because people realize, I think technologists understand that if you don't keep up, you become a dinosaur really quickly. And they're looking to businesses to help them meet that challenge. You throw all those issues into, working virtually and having to lead teams maybe for the first time that are distributed, and dealing with all of the nuances to not being, physically co-located. And it really means it's a challenging situation for leaders, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sounds like we got a lot to lose sleep over, right?
Always.
Yeah. And I was thinking as you were going through that list of all the challenges we have, and then, adding on to that, the pandemic and the other challenges that are in our nation and in our world, a lot of us simply have needed to focus on the right now, the tactical,
Yes.
and it's become very, very reactive. And so I was thinking, gee whiz, even in my own journey as a leader, am I spending enough time on thinking strategically and planning strategically, particularly from a learning perspective? What am I thinking about? what things I must learn? Am I thinking about what all my teams that I lead, need to learn in order to stay ahead of that curve, that technology complexity, and then, the demands of the business deliverables? Any advice there from a strategic perspective and strategic thinking around learning, Jeff?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first and foremost, what gets planned gets done, right? I mean, even if you're doing Agile or DevOps and we plan differently, we still plan. And you have to have a plan. You have to, and it has to align with your strategic thinking in terms of where the organization's headed. If you're going to hit the mark on, the limited either time or budget that you have to provide learning to your staff, you better really make sure you're aligned with where the organization is headed, right? First and foremost, and what the organization is betting on to improve that, accelerating that delivery and improving value to customers. Is it Agile? Is it DevOps? And what does that mean for your teams and what they need to learn that they don't know today? And so you have to think strategically, and you've got to put together, a plan. The other thing is you have to figure out how to make part of your learning be part of daily work, right? If you don't have a lot of time to pull people away, to go to conferences, to take training classes, to do other things that maybe you just don't have time for, those that you do budget for and do, you have to figure out a way to reinforce that every day in the work that gets done. That's going to be your best way to accomplish what you're trying to do. We're being asked by many organizations to help them think through now, strategically, how do I invest and bet on the right kinds of learning to be effective? And, from my experience, that means you obviously need the entire team involved. You have to understand their perspective. This can't be just a top-down thing, right? Because you may feel like you understand the capabilities of your team, but usually when you get everyone engaged, you find out there's some other gaps that you hadn't thought of. You want to understand what skills your teams have, take an inventory of those skills, figure out based on the strategy of your organization, where you're headed, what's missing, right? What do you need that you don't have today that you're going to need tomorrow? And then also consider the fact that in today's, particularly software development process world, whether you're using Agile or DevOps or Lean or some combination, those teams tend to be multi-purpose, multifunctional versus very specialized. And so some of your learning should be around the lines of, what skills do I need to round my people out with to make them more effective and more productive on their team?
Some of that. I remember one of the organizations we work with was an international firm in the airline transportation industry. They came to us and they helped us they asked us to really develop a plan, right, for them, particularly around improving their core competencies, their capabilities. So we worked with them. We did a short discovery of their current state and help them take a look at their existing skill sets relative to their business objectives. And then we tailored a set of learning journeys, that is, those courses combined with mentoring and coaching and hands-on pragmatic application to raise up, their core competencies. And that plan actually helped address different roles in the organization. So, whether you were a product owner or a scrum master, a developer, a DevOps, an operations team member, a tester, yep. Right? It included raising the core competencies of each of these roles, to your point, over a series of those interactive and engaging experiences in conjunction with getting real work done, right? What did you see as the key benefits out of an approach like we did for that airline transportation industry example?
Yeah, well, I always say that learning equals training plus practice, right? If you think about how we learn in school, when we're very young, most of the learning is done in the classroom. It's training, right? And mainly because we're learning new concepts, we're memorizing things. But as our learning journey goes through our school, through middle school, high school, college, more and more of the work is done out of the classroom, right? Because these concepts are things that you have to practice. You're not going to retain them unless you actually do them, and you do them a lot. And the more and more education you get, the more and more needs to be done out of the classroom. And I liken training in the corporate world, to that scenario. We shouldn't just be going to a training class and feeling like that's going to, you know, provide our staff with capabilities that they can wield. None of our other learning in the world is done like that. Why do we do that in corporate America? We should be reinforcing that training with some concept of practice, right? And there's a lot of different ways you can skin this cat. For instance, at Coveros, we can couple training with coaching, which is where a coach comes with the team after they've gone through the training, and their job is to provide them some guidance and support as they do their job day to day. Maybe review some of the work that they do, give them some ideas on how to do things a little better. You're really guiding and coaching them as you go. I mean, that's kind of the highest level approach. It's kind of like going to see your professor at office hours, right? For instance,
right? Yeah.
In an academic setting, they're just helping you along. They're not doing the work for you. They're helping you along. You still got to think it through. The second way you can do it is, you might call it pairing, you might call it a learning buddy, a practice buddy, whatever, where you take, someone who's an expert in this subject and you take someone who's just learning it and you pair them up and have them work together, right? So this is more hands-on, immersive, maybe more like, a tutor that you might work with, where they actually maybe do a little bit of the work with you to show you and then make you do it, and you kind of go back and forth, and it's more of an apprentice model of kind of getting someone up to speed by having someone who is a master sitting with them. And then last but not least is kind of immersive learning. If you've heard the concept of a dojo, or somewhere where you go to learn, but then immerse yourself into the topic and apply it right there with other people who are part of your team, from an organization that understands this concept, that's just working right alongside of you to get the job done, while they're also showing you how to do it better and more effectively, in more of an immersive, we're all part of the same team, do it with us as we go approach. And we found those all to be successful. For instance, we worked with an organization in the financial service and kind of tax area, where it was very much an immersive, provide training and coaching and support, but then roll up our sleeves and do it alongside of them and help them learn as we help them deliver approach, which worked very well. We worked with a technology company, a software company, where they wanted us to provide coaches across their teams. So once they went through training, we dropped in coaches who sat through their ceremonies, worked one-on-one with them offline to review and give them guidance and comments, and that worked very well as well. So you can take different approaches to it, but the practice piece is really critical if you're gonna get what you've learned, these concepts, make them stick.
Your message there around learning equals training plus practice really resonated with me, because I remember reading a couple of studies that, people that study how we learn, right? And all of those say that, look, when we attend just a training course, the next day we lose 50, 70%, 50% really of what we learned. And so in order to move that knowledge and that information from what they called short-term memory to long-term memory, right? It's the old, adage of, how do you master something? You master it through 10,000 hours of practice, right? Of application. So that really resonates with me, I think. And the whole idea of learning journeys, and then the ability to tailor those to different roles, and then deliver that learning in different modalities, seems to me like a great, a great approach. And I know we've had success with that with our clients. Well, I want to move.
Example I use a lot, just real quick, is it's kind of bizarre. During the day you might not remember where you left your car keys, but that song can come on the radio from 1972 or some whatever, 84, whatever, and you can just sing the whole thing, right? How does your brain work like that? Well, it's because you've practiced that song 1,000 times, right? You've sung it along with the radio or the CD or your whatever 1,000,000 times. And to your point, that's how you learn. You have to practice things for it to stick longer term.
Yeah. And boy, we just don't have, we don't have time for that more structured courses today. So we've got to really embed it in our everyday work. That's what I hear you.
We do, and ironically, that's probably the best practice, right? The best practice is the practice most specific to your situation, and that's going to be your day-to-day job. So it makes sense to practice as you deliver, so to speak.
Yeah. Jeff, always great to speak with you, and thanks for your knowledge and wisdom and experience, sharing your knowledge and wisdom experience as usual.
Yeah, you too, Mike. This has been fun, and please reach out to us if anyone out there needs some help. We're more than happy to talk to you about, what you're trying to do and how we can help.
Bye-bye.